Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July meeting of Emmitsburg Planning Commission. We'll start off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first item is review and approval of minutes for May 31st. Does anybody have any comments or corrections? Anything about last meeting's minutes?
I think they look great. I'll move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of May 31st. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. So now we have time for public comment. If anyone wishes to make any comments. Hearing none, we'll move on to business. So we have no old business to go over, but we have quite a few items of new business. This may be the longest item list since I've been on the commission, perhaps, but hopefully it'll move along smoothly. So we have 5 items for Christ Community Church, and the first item is the addition plat.
All right.
Take it away, Zach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the applicant, Mr. Joe Cece, who's in the front here in the pink shirt, Fox and Associates, owner, Christ Community Church. We got Christ Community Church. We have Pastor John and his son here. The plan name is Christ Community Church Assembly of God. The first is the addition plat. As you can see, the property tax ID there, and the property address is 17550 Creamery Road. It's in the general commercial zoning district. So I'll read this once. There's 5 plans, so we'll read it. The first one here. The project consists of the combination of 2 lots into a single lot and the dedication of 267 square foot of Creamery Road right of way to the town. 504 East Main Street, which is parcel A, is proposed to be combined with 17550 Creamery Road to create the new 17550 Creamery Road parcel, which is a little over 8 acres. The proposed addition plat as presented is not consistent with the town of Emmitsburg zoning ordinance as it is explained in the comment section below. So as always, there's our timeline, our agency reviews, and then our comments. So the town of Emmitsburg staff has reviewed the addition plat and has issued the following comments. Comments are not to be all inclusive. So a non-conforming barn is located on parcel A. The barn is labeled on the plan as wall, W-A-L-L. It is a non-conforming structure in use because it is located 5.54 feet on the southeastern corner and 5.87 feet northeastern corner away from the side property line. Measurements were provided by the applicant. Town Code 1720-60 requires a 10-foot side yard setback for all structures within the B2 zoning district. Town Code 1708-080 expansion of non-conforming uses states that non-conforming uses may upgrade, repair, or make alterations to their facilities. However, expansion of any non-conforming use shall be limited to the lot that exists at the time of adoption of this title, and additional acreage or dwelling units shall not be added to enlarge any non-conforming uses. There's some other code sections that may apply to that as well. We are recommending approval of the addition plat with 7 conditions. One, the most important, is to demolish the barn, which I spoke with Pastor John, and they are going to do that. Mr. Chairman, that's everything. I won't go through everything, but if you have any questions, we're here.
Okay. Does the applicant wish to make any statement about this? We have several items to go through, but about this particular item, you have any comments? I take it you are prepared to remove the barn.
Hey, Joe, turn your mic on. There you go.
Joe Cece with Fox and Associates. Yeah, we talked. We met last week about taking the barn down, so the church has that in progress. We're okay with everything else that Zach listed on here as comments.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or questions about the addition plat?
I was gonna ask some questions about that barn, but it sounds like it's already, the demolition process has already started. Is that accurate?
It hasn't, not actively. They're talking to contractors
Okay.
to take it down.
I guess then I do have some questions.
Okay.
Okay. So, first, I guess my first question is, why is it labeled as a wall on the plan? Because it's more than a wall there.
Yeah, it was because when they did the aerial survey, they can't tell what it was. I
Okay,
think so. It was just labeled as a wall.
gotcha. And then the setback requirements, I know that Zach talked about the 10 feet. I guess my question to that is, since the barn was there before that code was written, wouldn't there be a grandfather clause?
It is grandfathered. However, since they're combining two lots, it removes the grandfather from the structure.
Oh, tricky. Okay. That's about all I had then. Okay, that ties, that clears it up.
I'm typically for preserving anything we can preserve, but I've looked at that barn. I'm not sure it would be worth preserving anyway. So I'm glad to hear that you're thinking of removing it. Any other questions or comments?
No, I agree with you. I drove past that area today and I looked at the barn and I wanted to preserve it as well, but when I saw it, it was like, I don't know how much can be done. So I concur.
So if there's no other comments, do we have a motion? Motion. Perhaps the suggested motion.
I move to approve Christ Community Church's addition plat with the following conditions. Now, do I read them all?
You don't have
You
to.
could just reference the conditions in our memo.
Okay, so they're like 1 through 3 and then 4 through 7 under administrative. Is that all you mean by reference?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm happy with that. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to conditionally approve Christ Community Church's addition plat with the conditions outlined in the staff memo. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Our second item of business is the Christ Community Church Forest Stand Delineation Plan. Okay, Zach.
All right, thank you. This is their forest stand delineation plan. So what it does is it delineates what kind of forest exists on the property now. 3.55 acres were deducted from the delineation calculation to do the mitigation being conducted in 1998. I will go back to the suggested motion on page 2. So we are recommending approval of the forest stand delineation plan with 12 conditions. Nothing significant. The only thing that's we will need a copy of the 1998 mitigation plan. So just to confirm that it was done. That's all I have.
Okay. So I saw that reference to the 1998 plan, but I don't see any trees there from any planting,
Joe, do you want to speak? Were mitigation bank credits purchased?
or maybe that was.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily mean that there are trees planted there. It was included in the calculations
Okay.
back then. So Zach, you probably know all that land down there that the town now owns. That was all the forest retention and afforestation area. So what's on our property is mitigated in the area, the land that the town owns down Creamery Road.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioner comments, questions?
I just have a question. We're on number 4, the condition number 4, include a statement about critical habitat. What does that reference exactly?
So for example, on the Rudders plan, they found some kind of endangered fish in the creek itself, not actually there, but in Flat Creek in general. So if there's any kind of endangered species, bog turtles, certain birds, they're gonna have to perform mitigation. I don't know if you've done that yet, but
So what we get a letter from Fish and Wildlife, and there's certain things. There's I know the Indiana bat, and I think there's another brown bat or something that are considered endangered, or considered endangered in this region. Doesn't mean that they're on this site right there, but they have habitat in Maryland along the whole East Coast, and they're endangered. So we'll add that to the to the plan that Zach needs.
so one thing that Rudders, Federal Stone will have to do is put the double silt sock fence. So that's something they may have to do as well due to the fish. So we'll see what the letter comes back with.
Thank you.
I guess on the same question, have you heard back from the Department of Natural Resources?
We have a letter from them.
Okay.
Well, from Fish and Wildlife.
Okay, natural resources, because when I walked it, there's Phragmites on the property and they tend to throw a fit about that.
Okay. Yeah, we have a letter from Fish and Wildlife. We don't, not from DNR.
That we have, when, Zach, have you heard anything when that letter may be issued from DNR?
No, it comes directly to
Yeah,
Joe.
we'll do it. We'll request it.
So we'll just need a copy of that before this gets returned to the applicant.
Yeah.
The signed copies.
Any other questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve I'll make a motion to approve Christ Community Church Forest Stand Delineation Plan with the 12 conditions listed in our memo.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Christ Community Church's Forest Stand Delineation Plan with the 12 conditions outlined in the staff memo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Item number 3, the preliminary forest conservation plan for Christ Community Church.
Yes, this is the combined preliminary final forest conservation plan. So the delineation plan showed you what needs to be, or what is on the site. The conservation plan tells you how many acres of mitigation is going to be required per state and local ordinance. So the forest conservation requirement for the property was shown to be at 0.46 acres of afforestation. And by placing this newly created forest into the forest conservation easement, going back to the suggested motion, we didn't find any major issues with this. So we're recommending approval of Christ Community Church's preliminary and final forest conservations with 14 conditions as outlined in the memo.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to say that I'm pleased to see that they're planting the trees and not just paying the fee to the town, although the town can use the money, but I like to see the trees planted. It's
Mhm.
nice, one nice grouping like that. So thank you for doing that. I don't know how much Zach twisted your arm to do that, but
Hopefully they partner with Streamlink. I gave them their their information and some other grant sources for the pastor.
there are a lot of volunteers around the county that love to do that. Any other comments or questions by commissioners?
I do have a question.
Mhm.
Looking at the site plan, I guess it's right behind Mr. Sloan's house by the barn that's going to be knocked down. It looks like there's a ridge of trees that according to the plan will be taken out. And then there's other trees that will be planted, some arborvitaes and whatnot. Is that to remove the existing trees there to plant new ones? Is that to make it easier to get the construction done?
So
Or is it for continuity of making everything look prettier, cosmetic reasons, I guess?
So it's my understanding, I'll let Joe probably answer it. That's not considered a forest under the code. So
So there are trees there, but it's under the code. It's not considered a forest bank. Yeah, and they're going to be removed to, because we have to grade the site. We got to fill that site to get it to work. So
Sure.
bring it up to grade. So those will be removed. And then the plantings, the afforestation plantings are going to be in a strip all along the flat run along the stream.
Okay.
So kind of, I know the town asked for a buffer, and then we're on the other side, we're adding to that buffer another, I think it's 35 feet wide. That'll be planted
Very
all
nice.
along the stream there.
Okay. Thank you. That answers my question. I appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments?
That's mine.
Would someone like to make a motion? Don't be bashful.
I'll move to approve Christ Community Church preliminary and final forest conservation plans with the 14 conditions listed in our memo.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve Christ Community Church's preliminary and final forest conservation plans with the 14 conditions outlined in the staff memo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And we come to the site plan.
All right, so the site plan. The proposed project consists of constructing a 10,500 square foot church, 75 parking spaces, 2 loading zones, stormwater management facilities. The use of the property, once the addition plat is recorded, is consistent with the zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan. We'll go back to the back here. We do have some comments and questions that Joe and I discussed before the meeting, but we'll talk about it with the board here. So will the facility be equipped with a commercial kitchen, including but not limited to stove, oven, grill top, and or commercial type sink? If yes, a grease trap is required and added to the plan. They will not be doing a commercial kitchen at this time. It sounds like it's just going to be microwaves in order to warm up food. If there's any kind of stoves or sinks, commercial type sinks added in the future, they will have to add a grease trap. So they're going to put that as a note on the plan that a grease trap will be required at a later date if the items are met. The stormwater management facilities, will they be at a depth greater than 3 feet or having side slopes greater than 3 to 1? Joe's going to get back to us on that. So since we are recommending tabling the plan tonight, we can wait another meeting to get that answered.
Okay.
Also, we commend the owner for adding 2 dedicated level 2 electric vehicle parking spaces. I gave him some information on Emily, who is really good with grant funds for EV charging stations. Maryland's great with that. So once this is a future item, he's not going to be doing it right away. So they're going to be running conduit to that actual area. So they will not be adding the EV only parking signs at that time, but at a later date, we just recommend that they add those signs. Modification requests, the planning commission may grant an increase in the number of required parking spaces. The applicant has requested a modification to allow 75 parking spaces instead of 40. Without the modification, they would have to eliminate the 35 space extra. When an increase is required or requested for overflow parking, the planning commission may require the spaces be constructed of pervious materials. Staff supports the request without the need of impervious parking, as the stormwater will be adequately treated on site. But we do recommend one condition with approval: provide some understory planting to adhere to the purpose of the landscaping in parking lots, as well as planting along parking spaces adjacent to Creamery Road. So we just ask that they add some additional shade trees to shade the extra spaces. So, Mr. Chairman, would you like to discuss that one first?
Yeah, let's take care of that and then move on. Any questions, comments about the parking? Joe?
My comment is I'm all for it, increasing their parking. I know Christ Community Church is struggling now at their current facility with parking issues. And I know that this new their new church will greatly benefit having those extra spaces. That's it.
Okay.
Hmm.
Any other comments, questions?
So looking at the map here, are the 75 parking spaces reflected in what I'm seeing? I didn't go through and count every single one. I apologize. I should have.
They
done
are, yep, I counted them.
that. Okay. you did. All right, that answered my question. Sorry.
Can I just make one comment?
Yes, sure.
So what we did is the code has requires one space per 5 seats in the church, which is really low. Now we did not max out the site with parking to save cost and try to get a balance of, what's actually going to be used. So we're at about 2.5 parking spaces per, I guess it's per seat. Yeah, because we have 200 seats. So that's about 2.5. So that's where we landed with that, because there's a lot of, you're going to have some families, you're going to have a lot of singles, couples, you're going to have probably need more than 40 spaces. And we tried to come up with a balance on that.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Hmm.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make first page. Make the ocean for Christ Community Church and Assembly of God's site plan to allow the increase in number of parking spaces from 40 to 75 in accordance to Town Code 17.08.140C with the following conditions mentioned. And the conditions mentioned in the memo.
Yes. Any, a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to allow an increase in the number of parking spaces from 40 to 75 in accordance with town code and with one condition. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I just want to have a follow-up comment, even though we aren't requiring the pervious surfaces, and I'm all good with that, or else I would have voted against it. But I'd just like to suggest that you think about that and maybe think about doing something along the lines that the Seton Center did in their parking lot. For one thing, it's more aesthetically pleasing to have those pervious pavers, and they're lighter in color so that it doesn't absorb as much heat in the summertime, and it just looks nice. But just something to think about. I imagine it costs more. It's more labor intensive, but it just adds something else and breaks up the monotony of all that black asphalt.
All right, moving on. We are recommending tabling Christ Community Church's site plan so the applicant can, one, address the addition plat comments and record the addition plat. So we do have a tax parcel that we're approving a site plan for, an improvement plan. And also they should address the following conditions. I'll just go over the most important ones that I think are most important. There are 63 conditions. Most of them are very minor in nature. The vast majority are minor in nature. Adequate public facilities ordinance, they are required to provide that and do a staff review. The pastor did drop off that application. They're good, except we just need the EMS letter from the county. Then we can sign off on that. And at the next meeting, we'll recommend approval of that as well. I'm going on to page 4. Number 16, this is an important one. Development is currently proposed out of the effective FEMA floodplain mapping, but it will be located within the floodplain based on the new preliminary FEMA mapping. The town's floodplain ordinance requires the use of preliminary data. The new preliminary floodplain area shall be added to the plan to replace the effective mapping. Since the proposed parking lot is proposed within the new floodplain, the applicant owner shall consult with MDE and obtain necessary permits, and they need to be provided to us before the issuance of a zoning permit. Spoke with Joe CC. They handle that kind of stuff all the time. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be a problem. Sounds like a little bit of the new parking areas within the new map, but they'll probably be able to get a permit, most likely. Don't see any problems. Page 5, garbage collection points shall be added. It sounds like they're not going to be having a dumpster at this time, but if they are having any kind of exterior trash cans, still going to need to have a trash enclosure. So you may just want to consider just getting a dumpster, whatever you want to do, but there has to be some kind of enclosure. Unless you want to store the cans inside your building. So it's whatever you want to do on that end. Page 6. The buffer yard between the Sloans, there are some more plantings that are required in our code. So we're asking them to add some of those to the landscape plan. 34, they do need street trees along Creamery Road and East Main Street. Going to page 7, photometrics shall be provided on Creamery Road to ensure compliance. Also, page 8, they do need to have streetlights extended through and past Quality Tire. This is the Mort property shown on your plan to the edge of the southern property boundary. So those, Mr. Chairman, are the most, I believe, the most important comments, but I'm here to answer questions.
Okay. Any questions by commissioners?
Zach, will the new flood plan, I know that's just electronic currently, so we'll get that shown on the new documents.
Yes, Joe will be able to put it on the map. Yep.
Any other questions or comments by commissioners?
Just,
Joe?
just one, and I always ask this question. And I know we're looking into it. I believe our town manager is looking, working with Potomac Edison. We're talking about number 50, the streetlights. So it sounds like the streetlights will be at the Christ Community Church property, extending down past Quality Tire, heading towards the other end of Creamery Road. But
Correct.
in front of that, lighting in that area, is that required too?
In front of what? I'm sorry.
So from Christ Community Church back towards Mr. Sloan's property,
No, that's not required.
but we're looking in Potomac Edison, looking to check with Potomac Edison to see if we can do something there.
I believe we actually already have a light on that pole. Correct, Mr. Sloan?
There's a light at the corner of 140 and Creamery on the west side, and there's a light by the hydrant.
Correct, by the hydrant. Yes. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, and that little, just that little section.
Area light.
Yeah, there's a big arm on them on the actual street electric poles.
I think the concern was though going, once you turn onto Creamery Road from East Main, that little section there was pretty dark.
So the planning commission does have the authority to require streetlights at any intersections. So keep that in mind. If that's something you want to see, we should probably discuss that now. So they come back with that shown, if that's what you're looking to do.
I don't think it would, I don't feel that would fall on Christ Community Church though, because that's not their property.
Correct. And that's why we didn't have it as a comment,
Okay,
but you can require it. I'm just putting that out there.
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not, I just always have that thought in my mind.
Sure.
Because I know it's a little dark space there. Other than that, I just wanted to say that the site plan looks really good on paper. I mean, I'm sure the final product's gonna be really great. I'm very happy for your congregation, for you and your congregation. And I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Anything else? Applicant wish to make any other comments about the site plan?
The only thing I wanted to address was the one comment you made about the dumpster and at this point, we just, at the end of the day, we take a bag of trash out with us when we go and that's, there's no trash to deal with, but with the increased size, if there is, then we'll certainly deal with it in an appropriate manner.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I spoke with Joe before the meeting, and if he could just put a comment on the plan that, at such time as a dumpster is required or trash cans are located on the exterior, that an enclosure would be required, fenced enclosure,
Okay, yeah,
just in case.
right. And so trying to do everything right and trying to get everything prepared, but it's an incredible cost and
Yeah.
people throwing $20 in the plate doesn't go very far when you're looking at millions of dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We understand,
It's a process.
but thank you for doing your due diligence.
Thank you.
I do have one final question I
Yeah.
meant to ask. If we were to table this evening, what time frame are we looking to see an updated concept or site plan?
Yeah, the deadline to submit for next meeting is on Friday by 10 o'clock. So I'm not sure if they can turn it around that quick.
Yeah, definitely won't be the next meeting. It's going to depend on, because of the condition put on the addition plat to take the barn down. It's going to depend on getting the barn taken down and getting that plat recorded, that when we can resubmit. Which could be, might be a month, might be 2.
So let me make sure I understand it. Are they being required to actually get the barn removed before they can move forward?
Yes.
With the site plan?
Yes, because they, just like previous with the liquor store and the hotel, they actually have to have a tax parcel for you to approve that plan on.
Okay.
Same thing with the improvement plat. So once it's actually demolished, I don't care if someone goes out there with a bulldozer and just, demolishes it down, we can record it right then.
Just
Just
take
got-
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
They have to get a proper permit with
Yeah.
Frederick County and everything, but once it's down, we can record it the next day.
Okay. Well, wish you well with that. So any other comments, questions? There's a lot of conditions here, so it would probably behoove us to table this.
I'm leaning to that.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to table Christ Community Church's site plan so that the applicant can address the addition plat comments and record the addition plat, and to address the 63 conditions that are highlighted in our memo.
And a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second to table Christ Community Church's site plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll see you in a couple months, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Very good.
All the best. So we will move on to Brookfield. Parcels C, D, and E. And the first item is the forest stand delineation plan.
All right, thank you. This is for 3 separate properties currently, 350, 360, and 365 Timber Mill Run. There's 2 zoning districts, which makes it kind of unique. It's low density residential and high density residential. So the plan consists of the delineation of those 3 parcels. So there's the timeline, agency reviews as always, and then our suggested motion. These are all, again, very, very minor comments, something that staff can handle approving this. So we're recommending approval.
Okay. Does the applicant have any comments they wish to make at this point?
Good evening, Mike Battern with Fox and Associates. Also here is representing the owner developers, Mr. Chuck Carfanta, to answer any questions.
Okay.
We have nothing to add. As far as the comments on the FSD plan, they're fairly straightforward. And we can just work with staff and get those addressed.
Okay. Any comments, questions from commissioners? Just
I
someone,
have one on the section C. What's the incline going to be once the forest is removed there?
it's a little hard to see, isn't it?
I'll defer.
That slope.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we still have to get into the final improvement plans where we'll actually do the grading design.
right. I'm just like, say, when you remove the forest from there, if
Yeah.
it's say a 45-degree slope, and I know it's not 45
Right.
degrees,
No.
it's going to create a runoff instantaneously.
Yes.
We did a preliminary grading.
It may be, I think the max that I'd like to see is like 3-to-1, but that's not going to be the entire area. I don't know if we'll even be disturbing the entire area of those proposed backyards.
Will you need a retaining wall for there?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm just looking, because the cemetery is awful high
It
above
is,
that
yeah.
area.
It is. So from Timber Mill Run, it does slope up to the back of those proposed lots. So, but the max slope that we're going to grade there at any one location would be like 3-to-1. We try to, keep it relatively, as flat as possible, but all the drainage is going to have to come around the houses to the street or to the existing swale there.
Any more comments about the forest stand delineation plan? Someone like to make a motion? This is just the delineation plan.
I move to approve Brookfield Parcel C, D, and E forest delineations, or forest stand delineation plan with the following conditions. And it looks like there's 12 general and 13 through 16 are administrative.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll
Good.
second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Brookfield's parcels C, D, and E forest stand delineation plan with the conditions outlined on the staff memo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So now we'll move on to the preliminary forest conservation plan.
Yes, so the conservation mitigation requirement for the property is showing on the plan is 1.15 acres into existing forest, into a forest conservation easement. And they want to pay the fee in lieu for the remaining 1.20 acres of mitigation. Let's see, so going on to the suggested motion, again, very minor comments. So we are recommending approval of this with the shown 15 conditions. Just minor comments such as calculation errors, nothing to worry about though. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Comments, questions from commissioners?
No.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve Brookfield parcels C, D, and E preliminary forest conservation plan with the 15 conditions as listed in our memo.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Brookfield parcels C, D, and E preliminary forest conservation plan with 15 conditions outlined on the staff memo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And now on to the preliminary subdivision plat.
All right, so this is to take parcels C, D, and E and turn them into 10 single-family dwelling unit lots, 3 homeowner association owned lots, and 1 remainder lot. The remainder lot is fully located in the R3 zoning district. We did request that they change, actually fix the error. So currently, this is one large parcel, and it's showing 2 zoning districts, which is very unusual. So the R3 and the R1. So we made them cut down that line, the zoning line. So that's what they're going to be doing to fix that zoning error. It is consistent with the Emmitsburg zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan. Moving on. 2 comments. So we reviewed this and issued the 1 comment. The applicant has stated that the stormwater management structure is proposed to treat the new street's stormwater. It is their desire to turn it over to the town for ownership and maintenance. The town does not accept dedication of private stormwater management infrastructure. So this would need to be owned and maintained by an HOA. Not sure. I haven't spoke with the HOA, not sure if they're willing to do that or not. but someone's gonna have to maintain it. So we're gonna need documentation of that to whoever's gonna be doing that. I'm not sure if they want to speak to that now. It seems like.
I'm not aware of Mr. Demett talking to the HOA yet. Yes.
Chuck Carfanta, RJD Development. We're in, Richard DeMitt was handling negotiations, so he had a personal emergency. He couldn't be here tonight. But I remember that we were already talking to the existing HOA, and they want to take over all the other parcels that are on the other part of Brookfield that we haven't deeded to the HOA yet. So if you read the HOA documents, it will include the C, D, and E here. So we will, it won't be, I understand that the town don't want to take, we'll make sure that the HOA.
So it sounds like you're in negotiation with the
Yeah.
rest of Brookfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
won't hold up the preliminary subdivision plan, but before zoning permits are issued, we have to. have
We fully understand what's ahead of us and what needs to be done. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on, adequate public facilities ordinance. So they were required to do the adequate public facilities tests. So I'll just run through these quickly. It did not go high enough for traffic that was required to do any kind of road improvements. It was just determined to be adequate. Public water supply, adequate. Sewer supply is adequate. We have plenty of sewer and water connections for this particular development. At this time, the memo stated that the town is awaiting to receive response from Frederick County Public Schools. However, we knew it was going to be adequate based on prior discussions. They did get back to us with a memo, and it is adequate. And emergency services, we received a letter from them stating that it's adequate. So, Mr. Chairman, we're asking approval of the APFO application for a period of 3 years. Just required by the code.
Oh, it's a separate item.
It's a separate motion. Yep.
I got you. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion regarding the APFO?
I move to approve Brookfield Parcels C, D, and E APFO application.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the APFO application. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so moving on, I'll just go over some of the conditions that I thought were more serious than others. This one's really not serious, but I wanted to get the planning commission's input. So number one, I spoke to Mr. DeMitt and they're looking to name the street Gabe Circle. However, I was looking at all the different cul-de-sacs throughout the community and they're all courts. So I'm recommending Gabe's Court. Does that sound good with the planning commission? Good.
I'd have a question on that. Is there a reason Mr. DeMitt wanted that Gabe Circle? And here's why I ask. It's like a two-part question. I know up in Northgate, there's a Rini Circle.
Correct.
So I know we're looking at Brookfield in general as trying to be
Courts, yeah.
We have no preference on circle or court, and the court's fine with us.
Okay.
Cool, great.
Okay.
All right, another one that's pretty important, number two, the proposed HOA open space lots do not meet the minimum requirements set forth in the town code. Therefore, the owner shall pay the required park fee in lieu. 10 single-family dwellings times the $38.98 per single-family dwelling unit costs is $38,980. I didn't hear anything, so assuming you're not going to make any changes to the open space lots. All right. So we already, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question about that, Zach. So when you say that the open space lots do not meet the minimum requirements, are you talking about each of them individually or in combination?
In combination, they had to have so many acreage, had to have parking spaces. There's a whole lot of different specification that the code requires. It has to be accepted by the town, and the town's not going to accept these, from my understanding, speaking with the mayor. We spoke about number 4. So they're going to get more information on that, but I'm confident we can handle that administratively for now. It's not going to hold up the preliminary subdivision plan. Other than that, under administrative, they are required to provide a bunch of easements. This is just for reference for them to do on future plans for the finals. We want to see it on the final subdivision plan. Other than that, we are recommending approval.
You're recommending approval with the condition.
With the conditions, yes. Mhm.
Any comments, questions from commissioners?
I got lots.
Okay, take
Okay,
it away.
Zach, do you know for the open space requirements for the rest of Brookfield, was that paid in lieu or was that met?
I believe it was met by the 4 lots that Chuck was talking about, that the Board of Commissioners are actually going to be discussing at their meeting next month. So it's my understanding that they met that by the open space at that time requirement. Was there any fee paid? I'm not sure. I know there was a fee set in place at that time, but I think they met it by open space.
This was were the old improvement plans, but they were approved back in like 1995 or something like that. And everything, all the fees and all were taken care of at that time. We actually bought the property when it was recorded it, like, I don't know, when we still owned it, when it was recorded, partially was already recorded. So it had to meet all the requirements at the time in 1995, whatever that was. And it deeded, what happened was we're going to deed the open space to the town on the plats. So now we have to, I think the town had a meeting. Did they have that meeting?
Yes. So we've been discussing this back and forth. So the old plats back from the 90s or early 2000s state that the open space lots are to be dedicated to the town of Emmitsburg. That never happened. I don't know what happened. I guess, slow development, whatever. But we spoke with the mayor. He has no interest in the town taking ownership of those. I spoke with the HOA board. The board, they didn't issue me a final actual statement yet, but the consensus was they wanted to take it over. It's a maintenance headache for the town to take over those spots. So with snow plowing and cutting grass, the HOA already does that. So it looks like it sounds like they want to keep that. So.
Yeah, that's the direction we're going in, is to deed it to the HOA. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
So Zach, I know the HOA hasn't issued a final statement and none of them are here today.
Yeah.
I know they're not sure at this point because they felt their legal counsel hasn't told them what to do. So they're not issuing any final statement. So what's the plan if the HOA balks?
I guess the town has to take ownership according to the recorded plans.
So then does it meet the open space requirement?
No. This is for the new
Right.
10 units.
That's what I'm saying, is the whole Brookfield community. We now have one open space requirement going on top of a possible another non-open space requirement for a large community.
Well, they met those open space requirements back when they dedicated, or they didn't dedicate, when they created those 4 open space lots.
Right, but they were privately owned at the time. They're to be deeded, my understanding is they're to be deeded over to the town. The town wants to deed them over to the HOA. If the HOA refuses to accept, does the town owning that still continue to meet the requirement?
Of the previous? Yes.
Yes.
Of the previous. Yes,
But not the new development.
Right, it's just I'm looking in totality for the development.
correct. Yes.
And did the HOA give you any idea when they would come back with final answer?
Supposedly they're coming to the meeting.
Okay, so no final answer till the meeting at the first.
Correct.
That all?
That's what I had.
Oh, you said you had a bunch.
Well, that was, I mean, it was going round and round about the open spaces, so it's,
Okay.
Exaggerated.
A
Yeah.
little bit.
Does anything this evening conflict with next Monday, voting wise? I don't think.
Not at all.
Separate entity.
Right.
Okay, so I just didn't want to double dip in voting there.
Sure. No, you're good.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve Brookfield Parcels C, D, and E preliminary subdivision plat with the following conditions. There's 26 of them.
Mhm.
Is that all?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Brookfield parcels C, D, and E preliminary subdivision plat with the 26 conditions outlined in the staff memo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have 3-1. The motion carries.
And will you be meeting the deadline for next month or Friday? Okay, just wondering for a schedule. So we will not have a meeting next month.
Okay. Any other business to bring up from commissioners? We will have a meeting next month, as Zach noted. So if there's no further business, we stand adjourned.